let's look at Finland first. For residential, I would say top 5 cities, definitely. The cities are increasing over the next, forecast is to increase over the next 10 years. There's a demand for residential investments or residential units. Then we have Sweden, I would say the top 15 cities with residential. I would put a particular focus on the cities where you have universities. And for Denmark, I would say the top 5 cities. Particular focus I would put to the larger investments that are done now in the new super hospitals and the universities and the harbor areas, particularly in of course Copenhagen, but Aarhus and Aalborg. And Odense is actually doing quite a large investment at the moment. Have a lot of development going on in the middle of the city center right now. So those are very interesting. And then for residential in Norway, I would say Oslo and Bergen, Stavanger are very interesting and have to be looked at. For office, I would, if I am a core investor, I have to admit that would probably be the 4 capitals. But I would definitely also look into, for example, Aarhus in Denmark, and Bergen also in Oslo. In Norway, as there is a lot of interesting things going on in Bergen. It's a very important city for Norway. Residential, it would be, as you said, the top 5 to 10 cities, 15 in Sweden. I think what's very important to acknowledge is that actually the top 10 cities, basically maybe top 7 in Finland, but the top 10 cities in each of these countries are actually increasing in the inhabitants. They also, all of them have a positive development, which cannot be said about all the Northern European countries for the top 10 cities, which is very, very interesting. I mean, even cities in Denmark, for example, the number 9 is a little city called Horsens. It's forecasted to increase with 10% over the next 10 years. I have no clue why. I'm still trying to figure it out, but because there's nothing really going on. But it's forecasted to increase more than Aarhus, which is actually the city that has been the most stable in terms of yield, even during the financial crisis, compared to Copenhagen. It basically haven't seen any bump in the yield over the last 5 years. So it's definitely to be focused upon.
That is something that people often forgot about to talk about when it comes to real estate, that demographics. Yeah. And that's going to have a huge impact in the long term. And that will be quite beneficial to the Nordic countries because there is a growing population. But not in all of the Nordic cities, because it's the big cities that are growing. The countryside will, people will move away from that. But if you compare to most of Europe, that is actually a lower, it has a negative growth rate in the next years. Worst, I think it is in Germany. Until 2020, they will see 18% of the working population, a decrease of 18%. That's a lot if you consider that they will have an office space, house, etc.
Yeah. Just take the city center of Copenhagen. I'm just talking the city center. I'm not talking Greater Copenhagen. But the city center itself is going to increase over the next 10 years with 17%. 17% is quite a lot, just in the city center. Aarhus is going to, just the city center of Aarhus is going to increase with about 9% to 10%. So there's a huge demand there. And with the demand of residential comes then also offices, comes retail, everything comes. So it's definitely something that we're looking into very much, is how are the demographics expanding, but not only in terms of number of inhabitants, but also in terms of age. That is also very important. What is going on? What we're also looking at is, for example, the big investments that are done right now in logistics in Denmark, for example. Right now, I can tell you definite areas where I wouldn't even bother looking for anything, because we can see that several billion euros will be invested in logistics in Denmark over the next 10, 20 years. And we know exactly where it's going to go. We know exactly what's going to happen. There's a lot of OPP projects. So of course, any investment that we will suggest that we do for our funds will be along those lines of where all these logistics and OPP projects are going to be made.